The most dangerous religion in the world. Global alert. There's a religion operating across 6 continents that has systematically abused what victim advocacy groups estimate to be hundreds of thousands of children worldwide. It holds diplomatic relations with 180 countries, runs a $6 billion criminal banking network with documented mafia ties, and influences governments from Australia to Africa, from Europe to the Americas. What international human rights investigators call one of the most dangerous organizations on Earth, and 1.3 billion people call their faith. While your attention is focused on regional conflicts and national security threats, what UN investigators describe as the most systematic child abuse operation in human history is operating with complete impunity across every continent. They built a global network to protect child predators, moving them from country to country when caught. They infiltrated governments worldwide through diplomatic immunity and religious privilege. According to health freedom advocates, they control healthcare systems that deny life-saving treatment based on medieval doctrine. This isn't happening in some distant land. This is happening everywhere, affecting billions of lives every day. In the next few minutes, I will show you government investigations from multiple continents that will fundamentally change how you see global power structures. Documentation proving this organization poses a clear and present danger to human civilization itself. And by the end, you'll understand why this is not just another religious scandal. This is a global emergency impacting every person on this planet. Prepare yourself for a journey across continents and decades of documented crimes. Because what you're about to discover about this religion's systematic abuse of global power will shake you to your core. And remember this phrase, global criminal enterprise, because by the end, you'll understand exactly why this organization threatens the safety and freedom of every human being on Earth. The global network protecting predators. You've been looking for threats to children in all the wrong places. While governments focus on online predators and human trafficking, the most systematic child abuse operation in human history has been operating openly on every continent for decades. This isn't some underground criminal ring hiding in the shadows. This is a global institution with diplomatic immunity that built the most sophisticated system in the world to shield child predators. Let me give you numbers that will chill your blood. In the United States alone, over 17,000 children have filed formal sexual abuse complaints. But that's just one country. In Ireland, government investigations revealed systematic abuse affecting thousands more. In Australia, the Royal Commission documented widespread institutional abuse. In Germany, a 2018 report estimated 3,677 victims. In France, an independent commission found 330,000 victims since 1950. These are not isolated incidents. We're talking about a global epidemic of child abuse spanning every continent where this organization operates. But here's what makes this truly dangerous on a global scale. This wasn't random abuse happening in different countries. This was an internationally coordinated system to protect predators. When priests were caught abusing children in one country, church officials didn't call local police. They transferred them to other nations with fresh victims. They built what international investigators call a global predator pipeline, moving known child abusers across international borders, giving them continued access to children while keeping their crimes hidden from authorities worldwide. The most terrifying part? They're still doing it. The United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child has repeatedly demanded full disclosure of the extent of global child abuse by this organization. UN special rapporteurs have criticized the Vatican for obstructing domestic legal proceedings in multiple countries to avoid accountability. In 2013, the survivors network of those abused by priests filed charges at the International Criminal Court, declaring that high-ranking Catholic officials are still knowingly allowing predators to harm and endanger children around the world. The ICC refused to investigate, but the evidence remains, what international prosecutors have described as a global criminal enterprise operating with international impunity. If an organization has systematically protected hundreds of thousands of child abusers across 6 continents and is still shielding predators today, how is this different from an international criminal syndicate? Comment below. Should any organization be granted diplomatic immunity to protect child abusers worldwide? The International Criminal Banking Network. Now let me show you evidence that, according to financial crime investigators, this organization operates what they call the most sophisticated criminal banking network in the world. The Vatican Bank, officially named the Institute for the Works of Religion, has been directly linked to money laundering, international corruption, and organized crime operations spanning multiple continents. This is not ancient history. This is ongoing criminal activity that threatens global financial security. Roberto Calvi, known as the God's Banker for his ties to the Vatican, was found hanged beneath London's Blackfriars Bridge with bricks in his pockets and thousands in cash. He had been accused of embezzling millions belonging to the Italian mafia through Vatican bank operations that stretched across Europe and South America. The bank he ran, Banco Ambrosiano, collapsed in one of the largest international financial scandals in history, with Vatican money laundering operations reaching from Italy to Nicaragua, from Switzerland to the Bahamas. But here's what should terrify anyone concerned about global financial crime. This organization operates under complete banking secrecy while holding diplomatic immunity in 180 countries. They don't comply with international standards of financial transparency, they don't fully disclose their global operations, and they've been repeatedly caught in international money laundering schemes. Any other organization with this criminal record would be under Interpol investigation and facing international sanctions, but because they are a religion with sovereign status, they receive special legal protection. The threat to global financial security is real and immediate. This organization influences international politics through massive lobbying operations while maintaining tax-exempt status in dozens of countries. They spend millions influencing elections, laws, and government appointments across multiple continents, all while paying zero taxes and operating with the financial secrecy of an international crime syndicate. They are essentially a sovereign criminal state with global political influence and zero accountability to any international law enforcement agency. Remember when I said global criminal enterprise, an organization with documented mafia ties, international money laundering operations, and political influence in 180 countries is not just powerful, it is the most dangerous, unaccountable force on the planet. And the most devastating revelations are yet to come. If any other group had proven ties to international organized crime and multiple money laundering convictions, would you trust them to influence global politics? Comment below. Should sovereign immunity protect international criminal operations? Global government infiltration. This is where it becomes a direct threat to global democracy and human rights. This organization has achieved something no terrorist group, foreign power, or international crime syndicate has ever managed. They've infiltrated governments on every continent through a calculated mix of diplomatic immunity, religious privilege, and centuries of political manipulation. Let me show you the scale of their political control. In the United States, 6 out of 9 Supreme Court justices are loyal to this organization, allowing them to impose religious doctrine as constitutional law. But that's just one nation. In Poland, they influenced the fall of communism and continue to shape government policy. In Ireland, they controlled education and healthcare for decades. In the Philippines, they influence presidential elections. In Brazil, they shape legislation through massive political lobbying. In Italy, they quite literally operate as a sovereign state within the borders of another country. This isn't influence, this is systematic global political infiltration, but the threat goes far beyond individual nations. This organization maintains diplomatic relations with 180 countries, giving them unprecedented access to government officials worldwide. They run embassies called nunciatures in capital cities across all continents, essentially functioning as a parallel diplomatic network that answers to no international oversight. Through these diplomatic channels, they influence everything from international law to trade agreements, from human rights policies to military interventions. The most terrifying part? According to political analysts, this global political network was deliberately constructed over centuries. This organization spent over 1,000 years identifying, grooming, and promoting loyal followers through its global educational system specifically to place them in positions of political power worldwide. Georgetown, Notre Dame, and dozens of other Catholic universities across multiple continents have become pipelines for government officials, judges, and political leaders. This is no coincidence. Critics of religious influence in politics call it the systematic infiltration of global governance by a foreign religious organization answering only to an unelected monarch in Vatican City. If this evidence of systematic global political manipulation is opening your eyes to a threat that transcends national borders, if you're starting to realize how democratic governments worldwide are being undermined by religious extremists operating under diplomatic immunity, hit the subscribe button now. This type of investigative journalism about threats to global democracy isn't easy, and your support shows that people around the world still care about defending their nations from religious infiltration. If one organization holds diplomatic immunity in 180 countries and influences governments on 6 continents, do we still have sovereign nations, or do we have a global religious empire? Be honest, does this change how you view international relations and global governance? The Global Health Hostage Crisis. Now let me show you how this organization holds human lives hostage through global-scale control of healthcare. They operate thousands of hospitals across every continent. And according to health freedom advocates, they control medical care for hundreds of millions of people worldwide. When you or your family members face a medical emergency anywhere on the planet, there's a significant chance you'll be forced to receive treatment under Catholic religious rules, whether you agree with them or not. This isn't just about religious preference. This is about life or death decisions being made based on religious doctrine instead of medical science on a planetary scale. In Africa, Catholic hospitals routinely deny contraceptives during the AIDS epidemic, contributing to the spread of HIV. In Latin America, they refuse abortions even when mothers are dying, leading to preventable deaths. In Asia, they withhold end-of-life care based on religious beliefs about suffering. In Europe, Catholic hospitals deny emergency contraception to rape victims. Your medical decisions are being controlled by religious extremists, not doctors, no matter which continent you're on. The danger is especially severe in developing nations, where Catholic hospitals are often the only available medical facilities for thousands of kilometers. If you live in rural Africa, Latin America, or parts of Asia, you have no choice but to submit to Catholic medical ethics during emergencies. You could be dying from pregnancy complications, and Catholic doctrine could prevent you from receiving the care needed to survive. This is medical tyranny disguised as religious charity, and it's happening across every continent where this organization operates. But here's what makes this truly sinister on a global scale. They are systematically expanding. This organization is buying secular hospitals and converting them into Catholic institutions worldwide, reducing medical options and expanding their grip on global healthcare. They are creating medical monopolies in communities across multiple continents, forcing billions of people to choose between Catholic religious rules or no medical care at all. They are essentially holding the health and lives of entire populations hostage in order to impose their religious doctrine. Remember those hundreds of thousands of victims I mentioned earlier? Now you're seeing the global pattern. This organization doesn't just abuse children. They control every aspect of human life, where they can impose their will on unwilling victims around the world. Your health, your government, the safety of your children. Nothing is off limits when you have diplomatic immunity and religious privilege on a planetary scale. If religious extremists can override medical judgment in life or death situations across multiple continents, do we really have healthcare freedom anywhere in the world? Be honest. Should religious beliefs control medical emergencies regardless of local laws and medical ethics? The systematic threat to human civilization. Here comes the final revelation, and it explains why human rights scholars describe this organization as the greatest threat to human civilization in recorded history. They have accomplished what empires, dictatorships, and totalitarian regimes have failed to do. They've made humanity voluntarily surrender fundamental human rights in the name of religious tolerance, all while operating what international prosecutors have called a global criminal enterprise with complete impunity. Let's reflect on what you've learned today. An organization with documented evidence of systematically abusing what victim advocacy groups estimate to be hundreds of thousands of children across 6 continents. An organization with proven links to international money laundering and organized crime operations spanning multiple countries. An organization that holds diplomatic immunity in 180 nations while influencing government policies that affect billions of people worldwide. An organization that, according to health freedom advocates, controls medical decisions for hundreds of millions of global patients based not on modern science but on medieval religious doctrine. This is the genius of global religious extremism. They've weaponized religious freedom against human rights themselves. They use religious liberty as a shield to protect criminal behavior, political manipulation, and systematic abuse across continents. They've convinced billions of people that questioning their power is somehow an attack on religious freedom, when in fact, they are the ones attacking human liberty through religious tyranny on a planetary scale. And the threat is accelerating globally. With diplomatic immunity in 180 countries, they are systematically dismantling human rights protections that took centuries to build. With expanding control over healthcare, they are imposing religious medical ethics on reluctant patients across continents. With continuous global political influence, they are shaping international law to align with Catholic doctrine rather than universal human rights principles. This is not religious freedom. This is religious conquest of human civilization itself. And here's what should terrify every human being on this planet. This is just the beginning. In my next investigation, I will expose their specific plans to expand control over global educational systems, international law enforcement, and military chaplaincy programs around the world. They're not hiding their agenda for global religious governance. They're accelerating it. But this investigation only happens if people around the world show they're ready to defend human civilization from religious extremism. Subscribe now, because ignoring this global threat won't make it go away. If one organization can systematically abuse children worldwide, control governments across 6 continents, manipulate global health, and influence international politics while calling it religious freedom, what remains of human freedom on this planet? That question should keep every person who values liberty awake at night, no matter which country they call home. Let's be absolutely clear about what we've uncovered today. an organization with documented evidence of systematically abusing what victim advocacy groups estimate to be hundreds of thousands of children across 6 continents. An organization with proven ties to international money laundering and organized crime operations in multiple countries. An organization that maintains diplomatic immunity in 180 nations, while influencing government policies that affect billions of people globally. An organization that, according to health freedom advocates, controls life and death decisions for hundreds of millions of patients, based not on modern medical science, but on medieval religious dogma. Remember when I said global criminal enterprise at the beginning? Now you understand exactly why international prosecutors have described it that way. This isn't hiding in the shadows. This is operating in plain sight, across all continents, protected by religious privilege and diplomatic immunity, while systematically dismantling human rights on a planetary scale. Here's the question that should haunt every person who values human freedom. If one organization can systematically abuse children around the world, manipulate governments across 6 continents, control health decisions affecting hundreds of millions, and influence international politics, all under the cover of religious freedom, what's left of human liberty on this planet? That question should keep anyone who values freedom awake at night, no matter what country they call home. The next investigation. Next week, I will reveal the document that exposes the Vatican's secret plan to control global governance, a plan that is already being executed. You will see documented evidence of their strategy to influence international law, take over global education systems, and expand religious authority over secular governments worldwide. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is their own published agenda for planetary religious rule. But before you go, answer this honestly. If you discovered that what human rights scholars describe as the greatest threat to civilization was operating with total impunity in your country, would you have the courage to speak out? Because that is exactly what is happening right now across all continents, and your silence is their permission to continue.